Thanks for joining us on the program, everyone. Tonight on Beyond the Headlines, President Bola Tinubu has postponed his trip to the G20 Leaders Summit and the AU-EU gathering, choosing instead to stay back at home for further security briefings as Nigeria battles a string of disturbing security crises. Well, that decision comes amid three deeply disturbing developments in the past few days. We've seen the killing of Brigadier General Musa Oba and other soldiers in Borno by ISWAP terrorists. There's the abduction of 25 schoolgirls from a boarding school in Kebbi. And just yesterday, another shocking attack, this time on a church in Kwara State, where at least 3 worshippers were reportedly killed and not less than 10 abducted during a live-streamed service. These experts say aren't isolated incidents, but a pattern. And they are coming just weeks after major reshuffles at the top of Nigeria's security architecture. What does this mean for national security, national stability, for President Tinubu's leadership, and indeed for citizens on the ground? Let's bring in Special Advisor to the President on Media and Communication, Mr. Sunday Dari. He's with us for the next 15 minutes to shed light on government's response, what happens next from here, and how Nigerians should interpret these frightening developments. Mr. Dari, welcome again to Beyond the Headlines. The president's decision to remain in the country, many say, is consistent with the mood of the nation. Nigerians indeed expect him to prioritize this crisis at home. But the questions we've also heard many ask is, why didn't we see the same level of urgency in government initial response, particularly to the Kebbi school abduction? Reports say the girls were abducted around 4 a.m. The story was public by 8:28 a.m. A federal minister responded around 4 p.m. and we heard from the State House in the evening yesterday.
Thank you very much. When it comes to issues of security, you have to be very careful and deliberate because they're centers of information, and you must make sure your information is credible, either before you react or before you act. And you will have a military high command that supervises that territory. They have to brief the commander-in-chief. And I think those processes are standard operating procedures. And that's what we've seen. Because often when you rush to judgment or you rush to provide information that is incorrect, it might even exacerbate the situation. But let me say that the response of government to any of these developments, attacks, kidnapping, has never been slow. It's just that most of these responses are often not in the public space, because when it comes to security issues, they are sensitive and you must carry out these activities off the radar. And what we have seen in the response of government in this instance is typical of what we have seen since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took over. And let us not forget, there's a context here. Since 2013, 2014, we have seen the level of insurgency, kidnapping, the Boko Haram issues coming up repeatedly over 3 presidencies.
I hear you clearly, but there's also the question of why Mr. President hasn't visited yet. Is it something Nigerians should expect, or is it also part of a strategic plan?
Absolutely. You know, Nigerians can expect that, but also as president, you have the powers to delegate, and we have seen how swiftly he has delegated some of these assignments. As we speak, the vice president, Kashim Shettima, is rounding up his visit. We'll be briefing the president tonight. Just today alone, I know the president has received several security briefings. When you look at the letter and the spirit of his reaction and the statement today, he called them heartless terrorists. And he said, it is time to put an end to this. Apart from beyond empathy, we saw in his reaction a firm resolve to make sure that this is eventually defeated in whatever form.
The president has also confirmed that the Kebbi abduction happened despite intelligence warnings of a likely attack. That raises a very serious question. If intelligence existed, who failed to act on it?
Well, you see, when you come to and I'm not a security expert, but at least I have some grounding in intelligence. Oftentimes you don't get 100% intelligence, even from the advanced countries of the world. But you leverage on the level of intelligence you get. Also, you need a level of coordination and transmission when that intelligence falls on your table. I think it is important to know that at least the intelligence signals caught what was happening and the process started. Unfortunately, the kidnap occurred before they were able to protect the girls. But I think what's important right now is the fact that you have a president who is in situ, a president who has shown leadership in this circumstance, beyond just canceling or postponing the trip to South Africa and also to Angola. We have seen him summon the service chiefs and giving them very direct orders to do what is necessary. We have seen him respond to the request from the Kwara governor in like manner. And I think that it is important to know that at this point, we must know that national security is not a gray area. It's either you're a patriot or you're a traitor. And I think that the point we are now with the theater commanders we have, with the service chiefs that I've just brought in, we have gotten to that point where the rubber has met the road. And from the spirit and letter of the president's words very clearly, whether when he responded to the Kebbi girls or this very sad death of Major General Musa Uba, or what happened in Kwara, you know that clearly there will be no gray area in dealing with those involved in these terrorist acts.
Well, but you know that particular development has raised concerns among critical stakeholders who have asked questions like, was this a breakdown between local commands and federal commands, or are we looking at the larger systemic problem in how intelligence is escalated and acted upon? But I want to get clarity. Was Mr. President's trip to South Africa and the other country, I don't know whether it's Luanda in Angola.
Angola?
Yes. Is it postponed or cancelled?
Well, you know, it is postponed, and all options are on the table. Like I said, the president himself has directed that he gets constant security briefings. And based on these briefings, further determination will be made. But I think sufficient enough. You know, G20, 20 world leaders is big. But I think on the president's table right now, Nigeria is bigger, the security situation is bigger, the lives of the 25 children and those killed in the church country, providing the necessary leadership that this country needs at this hour.
Mr. Dario, let's come to Borno. The president says he's depressed by the killing of Brigadier General Musa Oba and other soldiers.
By the killings.
Yes. Why are high-ranking officers still getting ambushed and killed in locations where ISWAP has operated repeatedly? Does this point to weaknesses in our equipment, manpower, or strategy, especially in the light of the fact that we just changed service chiefs?
Well, you know, when you look at the attacks that occurred in Borno, we saw that they were repelled. That area is infested with the ISWAP forces. And you saw that a few days before General Ubasani was unfortunately murdered, our military were able to repel. You've also seen them move a lot of ammunition to that place. Because, you know, as the war intensifies, what you expected is you bring your best men forward. And you also saw that a bit of success was recorded until the issue of communication came, it was exposed. You get this in warlike situation. Let me also make this point. When it comes to insurgencies, it's one of the most difficult conflicts and wars to fight. There's no silver bullet. Why? Because you have to rely on credible human intelligence, because they employ guerrilla tactics against conventional warfare, because they are constantly on the move. And that's what we've seen. And when you even see in the president's statement, he has called on communities in these besieged areas to provide support and timely, credible information that is actionable. So I think what we're seeing now is not really an exception. There are things we see in such insurgencies. Our counter-insurgency efforts have been consistent and deliberate over time. And, you know, people sometimes argue about data, but it's clear that between 2015 and now, we have seen 80% of these terrorist attacks really come down. And we have to recognize that. Now, the 20%, 19% that is left, we will overcome under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Look at the attack in Kwara. Worshippers killed, others abducted in a live-streamed service. Does the presidency consider this in some way an expansion of the terror footprint? Are these groups now testing the capacity of the new security chiefs?
Well, unfortunately, what happened in Kwara is unfortunate. In the past, we've had similar incidents, so it's not really new. But we are clear about the pattern. Is either you attack a church and worshippers, you attack a mosque and worshippers, as recent as in September, or you go to schools, Chibok in 2014. So their modus operandi is very clear. But I think we're seeing this flash up now because they are feeling the heat and they are fighting back. Again, I think we have a very resilient army. Fighting insurgencies often very difficult because of their guerrilla tactics. We see that it's asymmetric warfare, and our security forces are also aligning. And I believe some will say, is there an orchestration, or are these attacks organic? That's a larger question, because when you put it together, congressional hearing tomorrow in America, the issue of U.S., Nigeria, the issue of Christian persecution, etc., you start to wonder, is this an orchestration for a purpose, or are these attacks organic? But whatever it is, we have a commander-in-chief who is at top of the game and who has the presence of mind to take the tough decisions. And like I said, national security, there's no gray area. It's either you're a traitor or you're a patriot. And he has given the marching orders.
We're looking at 3 major attacks in maybe 3 or 4 days now. A senior officer killed, a school raided, a church attacked. I'm wondering precisely how the presidency responds to those who say national security has worsened despite the recent reshuffle of service chiefs. And perhaps you want to also talk more about what the president meant when he said, quote, "Those who threaten the safety of our citizens will face the full weight of the Nigerian state," end quote.
Well, I think simplicity, just revert back to what I said. When it comes to national security, there's no gray area. I think that's what the president is saying. That's the weight of his words, that you are either a patriot, supporting and protecting this country, not aiding and abetting.
But what does that actually mean in operational terms, Mr. Dari, especially for Nigerians who are watching this? What can they expect, say, in the next 72 hours? Are there fresh deployments? Are there arrests to look forward to? Is there a manhunt or a new directive to the service chiefs?
But as I speak, I know that the military high command has activated various commands in these critical areas, from the North Central to the northern parts, and also as far as Kwara. And of course, you know the way it works. There are different levels of command. There are standard operating procedures. This kind of information will only come to the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and thereafter we will see actions and reactions follow through.
Sunday Dari, Special Advisor to the President of Media and Communication, thank you so much for talking to us on Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you, Nifemi.